Good morning, Katie. This is for Knitting for Katie and no one else. I wanted to do this for you, Katie, because you were interested in learning how to knit and how to weave. I can't teach you how to weave because I have no experience of it myself. However, I can teach you how to knit. So I'm going to try to make these videos so that you can learn even though I'm not there. I feel really bad that I wasn't able to see you in April. So I thought I would send off this box, which hopefully you've gotten by now, and send you yarn. Lots of yarn. I have 2-ply yarn, I have single yarn, I have Navajo ply, which is basically 3-ply, and you can take this yarn, and I have a lot more than this. You can take this yarn and you can dye it, you can knit with it, some of it you might be able to weave with if you had a loom, but you can do anything you want. I don't care. This is all yarn that I've made with the spinning wheel or the drop spindle, and so I would be happy if you use this. You can give it away to friends or do whatever if you want to. I just want it to go to good use. The other thing you'll notice in your box is lots and lots of knitting needles. These are bamboo knitting needles, like the ones that you used before, and they're actually really good at helping with beginners keep the yarn on their needles. And then we have the circular needles, which are good for shawls and hats and other round things or large projects. On top of all of the yarn and knitting needles, you should have at least one other thing in your package, and that is your birthday gift. And I'm sorry it got to you late. I was hoping to give it to you in person, but things didn't work out, so I hope you enjoyed it. And then the final thing is, hopefully your Christmas gift will be there by the time you get this video. But if it isn't, I'll give it to your dad, and he'll, you know, let you open it and whatnot. But I wanted to give that to you in person as well, and it's kind of bulky, so I thought it wouldn't be good to send it. But if I can send it, I will. Let's get to the lesson.
This is Knitting for Katie and no one else, and I would like to remind you, if you're not Katie, then this isn't for you. We're going to start off today by learning how to make a slip knot and casting on. And so you need well, you don't need a pair of knitting needles, but you will need one soon. So you need a knitting needle and a skein of yarn, and I will show you how to make a slip knot first. So a slip knot, you have the cut end and then the end that's attached to the skein, and I pull a length that's about how far I'm going to be casting on, because the cast on method that I use uses this extra length. So I make mine a little bit long. So with a slip knot, you have the two pieces together, you make a triangle, and then you flip it, and you kind of open up that triangle on the other side by making another triangle, and then you go ahead and you grab. And you'll see that I can keep pulling on one side, and that's why it's called a slip knot. Again, you get your two pieces together, you open it up with a triangle, you flip it, you open up this other end with your other fingers, and then you go ahead and grab that. And so I will take that, I'll put it on my needle and slip it like that, so it's nice and tight. Well, not too tight, but on there snugly. And then I will do the cast on method, and this is my favorite cast on method. You take your fingers and you make them into a triangle, or you open this up into a triangle, and then you go up, and then you go outside, outside, inside, and then you pull. You don't want to pull too tightly, because that causes some problems later on. It'll bunch weird at the bottom. But again, triangle, up, outside, outside, inside. And you do that as many times as the pattern tells you to cast on. And I'm going to do it 10 times here. So there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And this can be used as your normal knitting area. This is where you knit from. And you'll see at the bottom it has a nice even, well, mine isn't so even, but it has a nice pattern on the bottom, and I think that's a lovely finish. And now we'll get to knitting. So when you're knitting, this is a different set of yarn, but when you're knitting and you have everything cast on, and you just do a knit stitch, you know, you use both needles, but you make something called a stockinette stitch, where it has the bumpy side here, and then it has a softer side and a bumpy side and a softer side. And if you look on the back, it's the exact opposite, because you're pushing the top of the loop to the back every time you do this. Anyway, I will show you both ways of doing this. I prefer the continental style, but I will show you the American style of knitting. So you put your knitting needle on the right side into the back, but it doesn't go through the back here. So you've caught the loop, and you have the piece of yarn here, and then you just wrap it around your right needle, and you take your right needle and you just hook that yarn over, and then pull the loop off. And then you do it again. You just wrap it around, and then you pull it through, not catching the loop you went through originally, and then you pull that loop off. Through the front of the loop, towards the back, around and out. And sometimes you catch on yarn. This is very fuzzy yarn, so this isn't beginner yarn. Around, out. In, around, and out. In, around, and out. Now, the way I choose to knit to avoid a lot of elbow pain, as you can see, I have to move my arm really far to get it to go around and then out, and my right arm is just doing a lot of movement. And after a while, that gets really painful. So I knit the continental style. And let's see if I can get more yarn off of here. But I like the continental fashion, and this is popular in Europe, I think. But it's the left-handed way, where you hold your needle like this. And this is more efficient when going in between knit and purl, and it's a lot less wear on your hands. So I go around, and then you're still putting the yarn around, but you're doing the around and the through in one movement, so you knit faster by doing this. And you'll see that my hands don't move nearly as much as they were when I was doing the American style of knitting. Now do whatever's comfortable for you, and it took a while for me to be comfortable with the continental style. And since I've been spinning a lot more, I haven't really knitted, so it's a little bit difficult, but it's something that I think is worth learning. So when we get to the end of the row there, you just take your hand, and I flip around the needle because everything's been transferred onto the other needle, and then start again. Just go on through. Now, you're not going to want needles as long as this. This is for blankets. Well, not blankets, but longer pieces, so shawls. But we have things called circular needles now, which you should have some, and that allows you to do longer projects without as much fuss. And let's get to the end of this row. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me a message or to call me up. Of course, it's a little bit difficult to teach you how to knit without you actually seeing it, but I hope to put up more of these videos so that you'll be able to learn how to knit even though we're far away from one another. So anyway, you can see that one side has the bumpiness and the other side here has the bumpiness, but one side is soft and one side is not. So that's how you knit.